now can see it and are not afraid to say it. 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 And are not afraid to say it.
Afraid to say it. Welcome, welcome, welcome. You are tuned into Black Westchester Presents People Before Politics. Why is that still on?
That's me.
Oh, okay. You are tuned into Black Westchester Presents the People Before Politics radio show every Sunday, 6 to 8 on InTheMixRadio.com. I am AJ Woodson, along with your host, Damon K. Jones, and our lovely co-host, Lorraine Lopez. In the place.
Hey.
Yes.
Real quick. So, once again, tomorrow, Monday, May 7th, will be our first show on WVOX.
Hello.
1460 a.m. on WVOX.com, 11 a.m. to 12 noon, the Black Westchester Magazine Power Hour. And our first guest will be the highest ranking African-American elected official in Westchester, the Deputy County Executive, Ken Jenkins.
Yes.
Very good.
It's going to be a good show.
Yes. So we will have the whole crew. Me, Damon, Lorraine, and Dr. Bob's going to try to stop by on his way to work. So, and then Wednesday night, 7 o'clock, Wednesday the 9th, is the Black Westchester Magazine / Councilman Andre Wallace / Cupcake Cutie Boutique Night at the Universal Soul Circus. Yeah.
Whoa.
You gotta say
cool.
When you say the circus, you gotta say it that way. You gotta say it like this. Universal Soul Circus. Yeah. So we will have the night. Damon and I will be your ringmasters for the night.
Oh.
We're looking forward to that. Black Westchester came out Friday. Started hitting the areas Friday, Saturday, a little bit today. If we didn't get you, we'll get you Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. We'll have plenty of copies at the circus. If you didn't get one, come to the circus and if you check the links we send in, the link, you will get a 25% discount. I said it, a 25% discount. Come support Black Westchester Magazine, Cupcake Cutie, and Councilman Andre Wallace. All right?
Never mind.
All right. Okay.
Never mind.
So, Lorraine, what you been up to? What you been up to?
I'm fixing myself here.
Okay, Damon. So Damon. So Damon, what you been up to? What you
same old. The paper's out, and God willing, we'll be able. We hit New Rochelle, we hit Mount Vernon. God willing, we'll be able to hit White Plains, Greenburgh, Peekskill, and all those areas will be hit probably today or tomorrow.
The bank got hit. Where's the bank at? That's Elmsford?
Greenburgh.
Your sister's bank.
Greenburgh, Terrytown Road.
Okay. Well, that got hit.
Yeah.
At
least that got hit in Greenburgh. But the rest of the Greenburgh Center projects, all the churches will be hit. Hopefully, either Monday or Tuesday. So, we're just trying to get it out.
We'll do Yonkers.
And Yonkers will be hit.
Wednesday.
And anybody in Mount Vernon who just happened to get one delivered to their house, that is a isolated incident where candidates who took out ads grabbed some copies of the paper to hand it out with their campaign literature. No, we do not deliver door to door, but we do offer home delivery for $25 a year. You can have it mailed to your house. So
nice.
I know every time one of the candidates do that, they be like, "Oh, y'all delivering door to door now?" No, we are not doing that. So,
but enjoy the paper.
But no, enjoy the paper. But if you like it though, and if you want it, $25 will get a copy mailed to you. 12 copies mailed to you. So you can make that happen. And at the bottom of the paper is the information on every page.
And they can also go online and find out where they can pick one up, right?
Yes. Right on blackwestchester.com, you'll be able to find that out. Couple of stories. I know the Mount Vernon High School had the Mount Vernon School District had a situation this week where so-called disgruntled employee was fired, and they had tightened security, and they actually had lockdown at the high school, where everybody had to come in one entrance. Staff has to show their ID, but we're finding out there's a lot more to the story. News 12 broke part of it, and sometime this week we're going to break the rest of it. So look out for that. What else is going on? It's been a couple of days old now, but the Christmas melee at the mansion shooter, the person who killed the owner of the mansion and injured 5 others, he got sentenced to 125 years, plus 5 other charges for 5 other counts too. So I don't think he's going to see the light of day anymore.
No, it's a wrap. So,
but he was convicted, and there was a big gang bust in Yonkers, and I think there was one in Mount Vernon.
Yeah, one in Mount Vernon.
One in Mount Vernon. Yeah, and you know what? I looked at the list. A lot of them are people that you know is known to the criminal justice system. You know, I recognize most of them from being.
They weren't first-time offenders.
No, absolutely, absolutely, absolutely not. You know, I'll make some more statements about that later on because I want to see how all this pan out. But I really think that people in Mount Vernon and cities like Mount Vernon, they really need to focus on how their community is used in this criminal justice system. It was pimped under Janet DeFiore. It was pimped under Janine Pirro, where they kept people out on the street because they gave certain information. You know, even though there was enough evidence that they should have been locked up in jail. And you know, the sentencing that they give these criminals, you know, cities like Mount Vernon, they don't have time to heal. You know, because they plea bargain and they give them 2 to 3 years instead of really hitting them with the books, 10, 15, 20 years for these crimes. And the city never has a chance to heal. So it's like every summer or every other summer, once it gets warm,
it's a wrap.
People start shooting at each other, you know, because these guys get out and the old beef start up. You know, they're in jail for the winter time. They get released in May, and once the first hot day is a homicide. And that's what we just had in Mount Vernon.
Yeah, we just had a homicide.
You know,
and,
so
shots fired, a few shots fired.
I mean, black communities are used to this, and you know, and young black children, you know, are growing up with PSD because they're living in virtually war zones. You know, so we have to really look how the political process is played, especially when it's dealing with the criminal justice system. And I always say the most important elected official black people can vote for is your district attorney. That's the most important position. Most important position. So I think, you know, we need to just stay focused and really and big shout out to Scarpino. You know, it's not knocking Scarpino because I think he's really trying to reach out to the communities of color and trying to make inroads and
he's
God,
a good guy.
And God willing, we have some things planned to go into schools and try and encourage young men and women of color in high school to not only be in law enforcement but become lawyers and get involved in the criminal process. You know, whether it's defense, whether it's ADA, whether it's district attorney investigations. There are many occupations that we could get into outside of being a police officer that can help our people in this criminal process. You know, because we know it's racist, we know it's biased. You know, we already know that. We don't have to discuss that, but we need more of us, more people that look like us, and not just officers of color, but officers of conscience to be a part of this institution. You know, I'm not just pushing for black people. I'm pushing for black people that have conscience, and that will understand that they have a responsibility. It's just not a paycheck. It's just not a pension. It's just not going for some health insurance that or you're able to buy nice things and wear nice clothes and all that. You could do that with a civil service job and being in law enforcement, but it's also giving back to your community and keeping your community safe. So, So we're gonna look into that. Also, I hope people read the article I wrote on Bill Cosby. I think is very interesting that we have a real conversation about what really happened to Bill Cosby. Not about his guilt or innocence, but about the perversion of the political and legal process that rendered him a guilty verdict. And a lot of people don't know what went on behind the scenes, because a lot of people was really listening to white-owned media, and the same the same strength that they have gone after Bill Cosby for the last 3 or 4 years. You don't see the same attitude with Weinstein. You don't even hear about Weinstein anymore, right?
Well,
so we need to
they're
understand.
trying to press charges on him right now.
They're not going to.
There's an investigation going on.
Yeah, okay, yeah, there's an investigation. There's been an investigation. There's been an investigation. And they also know that Weinstein settled out of court for millions of dollars, right? And he did it through his brother. I think either the Wall Street Journal or the Daily News broke that. They did it through his brother. So why don't they go back, right, and take one of those settlements that's sealed and open that and use the testimony that he did, right, and apply criminal charges the same way they did Bill Cosby. It's just that simple. It's just that simple. Why haven't they done that with Bill O'Reilly? He settled out for millions of dollars too. Almost $100 million in different settlements. Why don't they take those cases and reopen those cases and file criminal charges? Just like they did Bill Cosby. And this is what I'm talking about. They're not doing it to none of the great white media men that have fallen to the same, been accused of the same crimes as Bill Cosby, but they'll do it to Bill Cosby. So, when they do it to a white media man, when they do it to Kevin Spacey, when they do it to who all these other guys, and Kevin Spacey was children,
Really?
Yeah, he that's why he stopped, because he admitted to it in an interview or something like that. Well, when would they do it to them? All them other white ones that's been settled out of the court, like Bill Cosby, he settled out of court with the agreement that there will not be any criminal prosecution. And the victim got $3.5 million.
Wow.
So does she give the $3.5 million back?
That's the question. If she violates, she should have to give that back. She
It's
violated
two
the
different
terms.
things, aren't they? Two different court.
Somebody else said
Issues.
Woody Allen too.
Willie Allen is
he
the
married
greatest.
her.
Willie Allen's the greatest. He married his daughter. And he's still revered as one of the greatest directors and screenwriters that ever lived.
What's
And
that
he's a
other
freak.
director's name too?
The one that left the country.
The one that left the country. Yeah.
Right, yeah, to avoid prosecution.
With
They're
a
not out there
13-year-old
looking.
girl, yeah.
Right, they're not out there looking for him. So I think I really think for all the people that are cheering for Bill Cosby, we really need to look at the perversion of the law. Because technically there wasn't any evidence. However you feel about it, right? There wasn't any real evidence. It's he say, she say. Wasn't no real evidence. Other they paraded 60 or 30 other women.
Like they doing to Trump.
Yeah.
And nothing.
Right. Trump admitted he's the pussy grabbing president. He admitted grabbing women by the pussy.
Oh, God.
Like what was he looking for? Loose change? But he admitted to that, and he's still president,
And he
But
paid
he
off
still got
a couple
elected.
of
This
people.
happened before he got elected.
Right.
He still got elected.
Right.
And he paid off a lot of people too.
And this is
A lot
not,
of
and
women.
look, and this is not any way for anybody listening you know, trying to say that women should be
Right.
not valued. Yes, they should be
Well,
valued.
I did want to say this. I'm not saying they shouldn't be valued. But what was the sentence that Bill Cosby got? What was it?
Well, he's looking at 30 years
For grabbing,
I
for,
heard house
for
arrest. They're gonna give him-
grabbing a woman's breast.
for grabbing a breast. So
He
30
didn't
years.
rape, because everybody's saying, "Oh, he got
No, he-
convicted
it
of
wasn't
rape."
rape.
He didn't rape her. He's not convicted of raping her. He got 30 years.
Oh, if
For
that's the
supposedly
case, I'm going
grabbing-
to sue a couple of people. Shit, well, I'm going to make money too.
Yeah. Shout out to those listening: Rotunda Tate, Sean Patterson Howard, Shonda Fair, Larry Fair's wife, Cynthia Turnquest Jones, who said in response to what you was talking about earlier, I call it CCTSD, which stands for Constant Current Trauma Stress Disorder. Okay, I'll never remember that, but I like that though. And everybody else who's tuned in, and we have two guests coming up on the show right now. We're talking about the youth, and we always talk about services for the community and the youth. And we have two guests coming in at behind a project that could offer a lot of services to the community, but they're getting pushback from the city council, and we invited them here to talk about their new project. As they enter the room, Mr. Marvin Church, and is Diane or Diana?
Diana.
Diana Williams, right?
Oh, I'm sorry, Diana
Williams.
Williams.
I
yes.
said it right. Okay, there we go.
And we have someone calling in who's the project developer.
Oh yes. Carlton. What's Carlton's last name?
Carlton Brown.
Brown. Okay. Yes.
Where are they from? From?
Say the name of your company, because I messed up the name.
Okay, I am from Mount Vernon. I'm a Mount Vernon resident, and my company is Commer Enterprises, and we are co-developer on the Library Square project. And this is
Marvin Church, again from Mount Vernon.
And let's give an official round of applause.
Yes.
First time, right? Now I know for the last couple of years, going back to probably the mayoral election, there's been a lot of talk about a project called Library Square. A lot of people don't know what it is, but they've heard about it. And I think the project originally consisted of purchasing the now dilapidated, defunct YMCA building that is closed and has not been open for some years, that the YMCA sold to the city. To explain what Library Square is.
Okay, Library Square is a mixed-use development, meaning that we'll have residential units. We will have a community space, a great deal of community space with amenities, to include gallery. We will include programs for young children and for adolescents. It will include a black box theater. We have 8,000 square feet set aside for either the Mount Vernon Youth Bureau or the Mount Vernon Boys and Girls Club. We are devoting about 25% of our budget to help for community programs to help young people in our community.
Okay. Now, I know there was a a memorandum of understanding, I guess, signed by former mayor Ernie Davis in 2015, maybe 2014, 2015.
Yes.
Which usually means the two parties agree to on doing something, and I know I read a 2015 article where then Council President Marcus Griffin was talking about how it was a good project and how the city needed something like this, especially to build up in that area. But recently, it's been voted against. I guess the sale of the YMCA part, or what's going on with that?
Well, the city council in the prior administration, they like the project. I think that we're having difficulty with the new city council members, and that's those who were elected last year in 2017, and specifically with councilperson Dahlia Ferguson and Councilperson Janice Duarte.
Yes, they just got elected.
They just got elected. And I think that they may not, and I'm not trying to characterize their reasons for objections, but okay, so their objection is that the Y should be preserved. It shouldn't be sold. It should be left for the community. And that is their objection. There are other facts about the Y that make it somewhat unfeasible to maintain at this time. As you may know, the Y was sold to the city in about 2012 because the YMCA organization couldn't afford to maintain the building, and they just abandoned the programs and left town. This is a national organization. The city bought the building with the intention of fixing it up because it needed a lot of capital improvements and to bring programs into the building. Well, since 2012, when it was purchased by Mount Vernon City, nothing has happened to bring programs into the Y. There was some work done in the Y, but it was never opened. So essentially for the last, 6 years, we have not had a function in Y. When we first came in, the proposal was for us to keep the Y. Well, after doing some environmental analysis on the building, we decided that it was not safe for the people of Mount Vernon. It was not safe for the young black and brown children to be in that building. That building was built way back in 1924 when the environmental concerns that we have now and the things we know now, we did not know at that time. And so the building has significant environmental hazards. I will tell you that in my first life, I was a dentist, and I did a lot of pediatric dentistry in Harlem, and left that to run a union for doctors. It was the largest union for doctors in the country. And while my job was to make sure that doctors kept their jobs, my platform was about health care, the availability of health care for black and brown people in poor communities. And I worked with the city of New York many times to make sure that young children especially had health care available to them. And it was on the same par as white rich folks had health care, right?
Right.
And you know, we know the system. The system is always constructed to make sure black and brown people don't get as much as everybody else, right? So I worked doing that for more than a decade. So when I come in and I see the environmental analysis for the YMCA, it is shocking. And I will tell you, as a healthcare advocate, I would not, if I had a child, I would advise them, I would make sure they never swim in that new pool. I would never advise a parent to have their child in that pool. So let me tell you about some of the things that the environmental analysis
One of the
found.
things they brag about is that we got a brand new pool, and the pool is, they did all this work on the pool and everything. I'm going to go for a tour one day. But
let
that's
her finish
yeah,
what
yeah.
she
Go ahead.
But I'm sure the pool is beautiful.
Right.
But let us ask the question, what's under the pool? Okay? So we know we know from records that the land prior to the Y building the structure that was there, the land was used by, I believe, a cleaning service, right? Laundry cleaning. Now back then they used lye and anything else, and they didn't dispose of it the way we know now that you have to dispose of everything. They just threw it probably on the ground somewhere near to where the things were. We also know that there's an active oil tank with a possible oil spill under the building. Now, that's what we know. Now, when you have an oil spill and you don't do certain types of preparation of the soil, or you don't seal it, all those vapors can come up right? We now know in 2018 that what the things we can do to retard the degree of damage to humans that we did not know in 1924. Okay? So let me tell you some of the things that we know about. We know that there's an oil spill, right? So what kind of health conditions that can happen with an oil spill? Well, nobody knows the real long-term effects of oil spills, right? And then, you know the Exxon Valdez and all those things. We know what it does to animals, right? It kills them. But the long-term health hazards we don't know very much about. But we know that it causes skin irritation, eye irritation, and neurologic disorders. And these are disorders of the brain, the spine, and the nerves. It causes breathing problems. And of course, anytime you hear breathing problems, you think of kids who have asthma. It has a greater impact on asthma. We also know that there's black mold in the building. Now, we've heard people say, well, it's mold. Let's just go in there with a spray bottle of Clorox and wipe it off. Well, that's not how mold works.
It
right?
turned into like a brownfield? Is that what you're saying?
Well, the property needs a brownfield treatment because it has contaminants.
Wow.
So everybody say, you spray mold and it will go away. That's not how mold works. The histology of mold is that what you see is just the tip of the iceberg. Under in the actual wall, there is a root system that's greater than what you see. So sometimes you spray mold and you wonder why it comes back in the same place, because the roots grow up again, right?
Right.
So you can't just spray mold and it goes away. There's evidence. When the assessors went in, the environmental assessors went in, they actually saw black mold, right? So we know that black mold cause chronic fatigue, chronic coughing. Again, you have respiratory conditions that kids with asthma, it exacerbate them. So we also suspect lead. Why we suspect lead? Because prior to 1970, all buildings use lead paint. Now, the story of lead paint is not new to the black and brown community, right? We, in the 70s and 80s and 90s, there were lots of stories about children experiencing developmental delays because of lead paint chips, right? And I mean, it's not an experiment anymore. We know that what lead can do to young children, and it is irreversible. It is irreversible.
Yeah.
The effects of lead is irreversible, okay? So it can cause brain damage, it can even cause death, and it can do something else. It can affect the hormones of children. A lot of these things are what you call endocrine disruptors. My sister is an endocrinologist trained at Cleveland Clinic, so I asked her, what does endocrine disruptors really do? And she said that the one thing they know for sure is that it makes young women infertile. Not older women who have experienced menopause, but young women infertile. That kind of infertility is a first world problem. The industrialized countries have infertility in younger women than third world countries. This is a problem for young women. There is a lot of research being done now about how endocrine disruptors can affect, maybe related to diabetes and maybe related to obesity, how they also may have impact on the inflammatory system, and why we have autoimmune diseases like arthritis and other types of lupus is an autoimmune disease.
I was going to say my niece with the lead paint had lead paint poisoning, and now she has lupus.
Oh, it's quite related because it is an endocrine disruptor, and there are studies being done now that endocrine disruptors may have an effect on the autoimmune system. I mean, these diseases are industrial related diseases, industrial toxins. We also know that because of the age of the building that there might be asbestos. Well, asbestos, again, causes respiratory problems and including mesothelioma, which is a cancer of the lining of the lung, and lung cancer. We also think that there are PCBs, right? PCBs are things that have been banned to be used in the U.S. since 1979. They were used as chemicals prior to 1979, but the building was built in 1924. So that we suspect they're PCBs. And PCBs, again, are endocrine disruptors, right? So, when you talk about these things and you say to a parent, well, would you go let your children play in the landfill with all this stuff? They're going to say to you, no way. I don't want to do that. Then why would we want to expose our black and brown children to these sorts of things in a building that is very old, that if the building has to be rehabilitated, well, that pool is going to have to be dug up to see what's under there and test that soil. So what is the point of keeping this building that would cost the city millions of dollars to rehabilitate? Millions of dollars. This is Mount Vernon. We don't have a slush fund in Mount Vernon to do that kind of work.
Absolutely not.
We don't have a slush fund. We get a lot of, feedback from the community that they want to keep the building. I understand the sentimentality of that, why I swam in it myself. But you have a building that is a public nuisance because it's a petri dish of stuff just growing in there that can harm people. And we're offering programs like ballet programs, is it the
Harlem Dance Theater.
Harlem Dance Theater. They want to come and give dance lessons in the building. So one of the really cool thing about our building is that we're going to have in our lease that people have to mentor. They have to volunteer to the community, right? That's going to be part of our lease. Of the 320 residential units we're offering, 96 units are going to be solely for people who are artists, dancers, actors, people on Broadway, people who are writers. Those people, those artists,
You said writers, I just put my hand on
yeah,
it.
right. They will get preference for some of the apartments. They have to volunteer 4 hours to the community.
A month?
A month, yeah.
Okay.
That means they get to teach, if you're from the Harlem Dance Theater, you get to teach dance lessons to children, but you also get to teach dance lessons to anybody in the community who say, hey, I want to learn to dance. You can come and take a dance class there in the building.
We're also going to have Carlton.
Pull your mic too close.
Yes, Carlton Brown used to be a fencer at Princeton, and
Wow.
Really?
yes, and
Wow.
you wouldn't know it, but he's a fencer.
Wow.
But what Carlton has done is that he's contacted his best friend who leads the U.S. fencing team. Is interested in moving their part of their operation to Mount Vernon. We can get some fencers, and fencers typically have great scholarship programs for students to go on to college. That's a wonderful program that we're pursuing, as well as the Purchase College. We've talked to the president there. They want to work with us to do a STEAM program. We're also going to have soundproof rehearsal rooms, writers' studios and labs, visual artists, craft studios, sprung floors. As Diana said, we're going to have a black box theater where people can come and give shows. Talent can come in. The Jazz Society can come in, have jazz shows year-round instead of just on a quarterly basis. We're going to have a cooperative art museum, as Diana said. So we're providing services in here that's going to be very beneficial for the community. And as Diana said again, everybody has to volunteer. If you don't volunteer after your lease, you will not get your lease will not be renewed.
Now let me ask you, because I know it'll come up. Now you said these services will be offered to the community.
Yes.
Will there be a fee for that?
Well, what we're hoping, right, is that things like the dancing, the classes like dancing, and those sorts of things, we're hoping not to charge any fees, because if the people are volunteering to do it and that's part of their volunteer work. We're hoping that it's not going to be a charge. I mean, we recognize the economics of Mount Vernon, right?
Right.
And if we're getting volunteer hours, we're not going to charge people on top of the volunteer hours.
And the reason I asked that because when they were pushing the big tennis court over by Memorial Field, one of the things they said, well, tennis will be taught to the kids, but a lot of the it was only for a certain certain hours of certain parts of the day, or you would have to pay, and most people in Mount Vernon that they couldn't afford to have their kids take. That was one of the complaints at city council meetings.
Absolutely.
Who's going to pay for this? Like, how are we going to pay for this?
No. What we're offering to young people is free. I mean, it would defeat the purpose, right? Because then we'd have a building near downtown Mount Vernon, and who would come if they had to pay, right? I mean, we're not going to put that strain on households in Mount Vernon in that neighborhood to pay. It's a way of giving back. The developers of this project, we're all black. We all come from somewhere where it was rich, right? We got an opportunity to go to college, and we recognize that young black kids should get opportunities to see a world outside of themselves, We want them to have experiences that they would not necessarily have just living in Mount Vernon. And so we want to offer them that. We want to offer them an opportunity to do fencing. I mean, come on. The guy who is going to come here and help with the fencing program, he has sent like 4 or 5 black and brown kids to the Olympics.
Wow.
I mean, this is fantastic. It's a fantastic opportunity. Yes, we're giving up a basketball court, and I understand that. And yes, we're giving up a pool. But you know what? We just don't need basketballs and courts and pools anymore.
Exactly.
We need programs. The fencing program will have a component of it that's academics. In other words, you can't fence if you're not keeping up with your homework. We're going to have classrooms where kids get help with homework. We want to create an environment that they can do well. So Carlton is not on the call. I don't know why he's having problem getting in.
He's having problem with the number?
Yeah, I gave him the number, yeah.
Give him the second.
The 914-969-6499.
Okay, let me try that.
That's a direct line.
Okay.
AJ, you said that they did some work in there already? Who did?
There was renovations done. The city had renovations done. I guess over the last few years, even when Mayor Davis was in office, they supposedly had worked on the roof. I think it was supposed to be, and I keep hearing about this great pool, all this great pool that they did. They keep saying that they're going to give us a tour of the building, but I have not got my tour yet. So I'm still waiting for my tour.
I would like to speak to that quickly.
Yeah.
From that standpoint, I understand that they want to do a tour, but environmentally, when you buy a building, you're supposed to do a phase 1. They call it it's called phase 1, and a phase 1 is what an engineering firm comes up with, what goes on in the building, what goes in the grounds, and this is what their conclusions were. What Diana raised. So, number 1, the hazards that the city posed to those workers who went into that building is deplorable. Let's just say it what it is. When you buy a building, you are supposed to do an environmental phase 1. That's why we had situations up the Love Canal up in Niagara Falls when this whole thing developed in the 60s about environmental hazards and environmental contamination.
I think that the mayor, the current mayor, when he got the environmental analysis, he felt, and I agree with him in this instance, he felt it was safer to close the building. Once we had our obligation, once we did the analysis, right? We had an obligation, a moral obligation, to let the city know that there are hazards in the building and we close the building, which I thought was a responsible thing to do.
We have a caller. We have one question too that asked, where have they done this before?
Okay, well, that's a good point.
And we have.
Is they talking about the
Carlton.
artist studio? Where they done it before, or where have they done the fencing, or what?
No, just I guess the programs that you're talking about, the
Oh,
project.
Is Carlton on the line?
And
Yeah, I just joined. If you
Okay,
can hear me.
Carlton. Yes, Carlton, go ahead. We'll let Carlton answer that question.
And I missed the question. What was the question?
the question was, where have they done this before?
Where have we done?
Well, we've done this kind of work which we call restorative human settlement. Practically in all our work we've done, we did it in Harlem. We did a project there called 1400 on Fifth. We did a project there called the Kalahari. Between those two projects, there were probably just over 400 middle income and mixed income housing. And we included arts and culture in the Kalahari. We had music rehearsal rooms. We have space open to the community where we've done live performances of music, where an organization holds church services there. We've had mayoral debates there, community organizations, poetry readings. We do a whole lot of things to bring culture into the communities where we work, because what we know is that's one of the places where you can build bridges between people.
They did something very similar to that in Yonkers, with artists and a big ballroom and, oh God, I forgot what it was called, but yeah, it's still in Yonkers, in downtown Getty Square.
One comment from the audience said, wow, fencing, experiencing other sports helps versify our students for college. They always provide more avenues and scholarships. And this is from a Mount Vernon teacher.
That's exactly what he said.
Yeah, and Carlton, can you explain
Well,
the
you know, we
squash
put a program in
program?
there called Street Squash, right? And I tell you, quite frankly, when we got designated to develop the site, there was a Little League baseball field. The land was owned by the city, but there was a Little League baseball field there called the South Harlem Reds. And everyone associated with South Harlem Reds was very upset when they found out that the city and we as the developer were going to be doing a new building there. So I went and met with a guy, a brother named Maurice Fawcett, who had started and ran the South Harlem Reds, right? And I talked to him about what we were doing and how we were going to bring street squash. And there were some huge sort of interesting things that we found. Talking to Maurice, he found that though, you know, the South Harlem Reds was a successful program, he couldn't tell me how many kids had left that program and gone on to college. When I asked him specifically how many boys, he said maybe 2 or 3. And when I asked him how many girls, he said no girls, because they didn't allow girls in the league, right? So with street squash, what I explained, it would make a change in those kids' lives. So fast forward, that was in 2003 when I had that conversation with Maurice. It's 2018 now, and the facility has been open since 2008. And every year they have 300 kids that come through that program. And these are kids from the public housing across the street, from public schools in Harlem that have not been to the greater schools. But they have 300 kids that graduate from that program every year and go on to college. And they finish college, right? And so the program takes them and exposes them to a world that they didn't know through squash. Well, yes, they learn squash, but the program gives them academic enrichment, it prepares them for the SAT, and these kids just go off and do well. And they come back to the Harlem community. There's another program that's been run like that in Harlem also. It's a fencing program. And in the last 4 Olympics, they have sent no less than 6 or 7 black and brown kids to the Olympics. They came from the Harlem community, from public schools, and they've gone on to colleges like Princeton and Yale and all over. So, you know, basketball is fine, and I think Mount Vernon has done a great job of creating professional and college basketball players, but we need diversity. We think that you can provide lots of other things so the kids have choices. But most important, our work is about transforming communities and transforming people.
That's great. Hey, Carlton, how you doing? It's Damon, man. Welcome to the show, and thanks for taking time out to call in, you know, about this project. let me ask you a question. You know, how many times do black communities rarely get black developers that will come into their community and offer actual programs for their communities? Is this the norm, or this is just a few out of a couple of hundred in your experience as a black developer?
Well, let me say this, right? There aren't a couple hundred black developers in the metropolitan Northeast, right? First of all, metropolitan New York. But when you get to black developers, we're probably the black developer that will do this. When you get to any developers, whether you're talking about black or Latino, there's probably only one other developer in the metropolitan market that does stuff similar to this, right? And so it's this way of thinking about how do you make a community strong is not what most developers think about. Like most developers, we also need to make money, but what's most important for us is like changing our communities, right? I'm black. I grew up in Mississippi. My parents moved there to work in the civil rights movement in 1957. That's where I grew up. I grew up in a community where people like myself, like my parents, were committed to fixing what was broken in our communities, right? So I came to development out of a human, from a human standpoint, that I wanted to do human development work because I recognized, though I was trained as an architect, that we don't live in buildings, we live in communities, right? Most developers, whether they're black or white, are very focused on simply building buildings, right? Because I come from a human development background, I'm concerned about building communities, and buildings are just a vehicle for doing that. So I think that distinguishes our work.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
I got one question from the owner of the station. Marvin, are you listening to the show on a computer?
No, I'm not.
Okay, because they're saying there's an echo when your voice is, and they were saying if you had a computer or something on, please turn that down.
Okay, I do have a computer on, but I'm not listening to the show. I can turn it off. Hold on a second.
Go ahead, Damon.
No, well, I'll wait till you come back. Well, anyway, I've been living in Mount Vernon for only about 9 years now, and I what happened? Where did I go? Oh, I was 9 years now, and I have noticed that the lack of black developers, developing a black city in all intents and purposes. I know there's white folks there, man. I know white people live in Mount Vernon, but Mount Vernon is known as a black city, and with the black government. And one thing that I think that the leadership in Mount Vernon has been missing. And then we want to question on why, like the economic development and the poverty rate is so high in Mount Vernon. It's because Mount Vernon does not invest in itself, right? It doesn't work with people that look like them to invest in itself. One of them, and there's blueprints. There's blueprints around the country. The reason why Atlanta has the most black millionaires than any other place is because the mayor, at the key development of the time, the mayor made sure that projects went to people that looked like him. And in turn, they hired people that looked like them. And they employed people that looked like them. And they took care of people that looked like them. I mean, look, I'm going to call it as I see it. So when I sit at political functions, right, and I see a white developer stand up, like he's doing something for our people, that's bullshit, man. I can't say it any other way because we're getting nothing out of these projects. The city is getting nothing out. The city is getting completely nothing out of the project, and nobody fights it, right? Nobody says anything when they do it. But when you get someone that looks like us and they're coming in with actual programs that's going to help the community, we fight each other. You know, we fight each other, and that's not a good look. That's really not a good look. You know, I mean, you got that crazy building down there on there by the train station, look like Lego building. That's an embarrassment to the growth of the city. But nobody's arguing that. You know, nobody's looking at the detail that the city didn't even have in control on, and the plans that they gave didn't even look like what the building ended up with, right? But the same city council people is not complaining about that. How do you go to court to change that building from being ugly and looking like something decent? You know, and then when you have city council people that on the campaign trail says it's a good project, and then when they get in office, they go against the project, I have to question your integrity.
Oh.
I have to question your integrity on it.
Yeah.
You know, and if you're going to turn down a project and then people are going to ask about the project and you're an elected official, be honest on what the project is about. Be honest on what it is about. The Y is not coming back. All right? So everybody that's under the conclusion that the Y, whether they do the project or not, the Y ain't coming back.
Matter of fact, they're selling other buildings. They're leaving White Plains.
Look, if they leave White Plains, you think they're going to leave White Plains and come to Mount Vernon, I could sell you an old bridge called the Tappan Zee and tell you it's a new one. If you're going to believe that. Yo, it's time for black people to start doing business the proper way.
So what's the holdup?
The holdup is 2 city council people have voted against it. And from what my understanding is that they think there's a better way to do it. They want the city to control it, right? But the city has no money. And the greatest question that has yet to be asked answered by these 2 city council people is where you going to get the money? Where you going to get the money?
As a Mount Vernon taxpayer, the only possibility is to raise taxes. And it's going to be a tremendous amount of taxes because not only do you need raise taxes to remediate the building, to fix it up, but you're going to have to raise taxes to run the programs.
Exactly.
So you be burdened, you have a tax burden that goes into infinity because as long as that program is there, you're going to have to pay people to run the programs.
Exactly.
So
And Cynthia
You know,
said,
and the ironic thing is what we're doing. One of the problems, you know, I did a little research on Mount Vernon, right? And one of the things that Moody's, which is one of the financial rating agencies that rates bonds, and depending on what your rating is, the higher it is, the less it costs the city to borrow money. The lower it is, the more it costs the city. And the bond rating for the city of Mount Vernon has been going down continuously. And Moody's analysis, here's what they said. They said, in order for the bond rating to stop going down, the first thing that Mount Vernon needs to do is to stop the tax base from shrinking, right? As the tax base, as the rateable shrink, the rate goes up because there are fewer properties to tax. And the next thing they said they need to do is increase the ratables, right? So if you look at what we're doing, we're going to increase the ratables. You know, we will be paying property taxes on this building. Right now, the city gets no taxes on that vacant land there. We're rezoning 2 square blocks so that you can build larger scale buildings like this that will be transit oriented and what we're calling the downtown transit oriented arts district. And if you look at that district being built out over the next 10 years, you will see a $754 million increase in the ratables for the city of Mount Vernon, which means tax rates will go down because they'll have more things to tax. It means more people will be living there spending money. So when we look at our building, which will have 320 apartments, because it's near transportation, because it's near grocery stores, near banks and dry cleaners, etc., it has something called a walk score of 95. So communities where you have walk scores in the 90s, that means typically people will spend 20 to 30% of their income within walking distance of their home. They won't have to drive, out to Cross County or to Yonkers or wherever, right? They'll be spending a lot of money right there. And when you spend that money in a disinvested census tract like this, it turns over. It creates jobs, right? Even in this building, we'll have 53 full-time equivalent jobs. And in building this building, we will create 375 full-time equivalent jobs for the period of construction. And we've committed that 50% of those jobs will come from Mount Vernon with a focus in this census tract, which has an unemployment rate of about 19%. So what we said we would do is we would partner with Youth Bill, and as soon as we get the agreement for the city to sell us the land so that they can start training people to take these jobs. Now, going back to when I was on the board of the U.S. Green Building Council, we put together a national relationship with Youth Bill to train young black and brown kids in green construction, right? And they're doing this, Youth Bill is doing this all over the country, and it's a program that I was one of the people that really worked to start that program. So on our projects, that's what we do. We train local young people to build green construction. Our building will be a green building. It will be probably a LEED gold building, and it will be a passive house. So talking about changing lives, it's not just building a building, it's creating employment opportunities. If a kid learns to be a carpenter or a plumber or a painter under this job, this isn't the last job she or he will have. They will have a skill that is marketable in this market, and they can work elsewhere. So those sort of important things, that is more than just building a building. It's like doing something that is going to help people reach their full human potential.
That's great. Let me ask you a question. Was everything that y'all guys have said is very very interesting and is very moving forward and for the future of Mount Vernon. When y'all proposed this in front of the city council, was all this information given?
We did a presentation to the city council in a work session, and we actually had a formal presentation that we gave, and we asked them if they had any questions. So much of the information, most of the information, except the health hazard, most of that information was given to the city council.
Okay.
In a different context.
A caller wants to know is, did y'all present the information to the regular everyday people in Mount Vernon, the residents?
Well, that's what we're attempting to do now. We feel that the choice is not the choice of the city council. This project is not for the city council or for the government or any particular mayor. This project is for the citizens of Mount Vernon. And we want to reach out to the citizens of Mount Vernon because they're the beneficiary of this. And let them choose. And if this is something that they want, yes, call your city council members and let them know. Particularly City Council member Dahlia Ferguson and City Council member Janice Duarte. Yeah. And tell them that you want developers who will come in and will invest in the community. Right now, all the developers who are coming in are not offering this kind of stuff. They don't offer anything to black and brown people in the community. They come in, they make their money, and they leave. And that is it.
We live here.
We live here. So, we know what goes on in Mount Vernon. We pay taxes. We see what goes on in the school district. So we have a bigger commitment to this project than the ones who come in from wealthier communities.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And yet they don't have to, they are not suggesting any give back. I mean, they're not giving anything to communities.
Right.
But their projects go up.
Right, right, and you're absolutely right. I haven't seen one developer offer programs since I've been living in Mount Vernon.
Or contractor, or...
Right, I haven't, offer actual programs, let alone really employ people from Mount Vernon actually working on the projects in construction. So... I know there was a lot of young people of color on the Gramerton Avenue project because my son did work on that project. But I think Andre Wallace had a lot of things to do with making sure a lot of people got. But that project was put together before Andre became city councilman. But anything after that, I don't see people from the Mount Vernon community being employed in these projects, you know, that come forth. And then once the building is built, you know, they don't give anything back to the community per far, other than contributions to the elected officials and donations to the Democratic Party.
I want to add, though, as far as the bill, Andre, before he was city council, was teaching classes. He taught those. He trained all of those, including your son. I was in the class with them. He trained all of them. You know what I'm saying? And they got their certifications and whatever, and he prepared them so they were able to, you know, go in, and some of them are now going to the union and stuff like that. So he was doing that. He was having classes, OSHA classes and all that, way before he was a city councilman. And he still has some of those classes now.
And Marvin and I, in our careers throughout our lives, right, we've always been people who give back. Marvin was the head of the NAACP in Peekskill, and we've always believed in giving back to our community, right?
Right.
So this is a commitment that just didn't start with this project.
Exactly.
And the same thing with Carlton. I mean, you know, Carlton has done projects in Africa where it's really about building community. In Rwanda, you know, Rwanda was destroyed by war, and it left a predominantly female population. So Carlton went to Africa and taught these women how to make bricks. And so their bricks are being used in buildings. There's a demand for their bricks, but it's a way of giving women meaningful employment. Because they now are the heads of families, right?
Right.
So this is not something that just came about just suddenly and we said, oh, if we're going to do a project in Mount Vernon, let's do this new thing. It comes from our soul, you know?
Just one major point I would like to make is that there's a lot of development going on in Fleetwood and Mount Vernon West. What's happening into the south side of Mount Vernon, downtown Mount Vernon, where our project's located? We are trying to do something to turn around Mount Vernon, downtown Mount Vernon, make it a viable community. You look at the developments to White Plains, New Rochelle, Yonkers, Port Chester, Mamaroneck, even the town I'm from, Peekskill, and I've been living in Mount Vernon for 18 years, that's even thriving. What's happening to Mount Vernon? We get so stuck in the mud, it's to say we need to stop progress, we don't need to move forward. But when, as Carlton said, when we need tax ratables, the increases for taxes, we the homeowners are taking a hit on it, and in order to enhance tax revenue and new line of revenue, you have to have development. And that's the new line of in New Rochelle, White Plains, Yonkers, Greenburgh, all those towns are doing it, except Mount Vernon. And if we don't make a change, you know, I was a banker at one time in my life. I also was a regulatory guy in my life. I was also an IRS agent in my life. But one critical thing that we need and we have to be cognizant of is that we need to make sure we move our city forward and stop going backwards.
Yeah, absolutely.
One of the things Carlton spoke about in our interview, because I interviewed him, and I'd like him to speak on it. He said, my mission is to build strong black and brown communities. And he was talking about what you just said about when he looked through the South Side, he saw no sustainable development that contributes to human development. In other words, there was nothing making the South Side of Mount Vernon a better community. And one of the things that he believed is that people do not live in buildings, they live in communities.
Correct.
Can you elaborate that on Carlton, if you're still there?
Well, yeah. Let me say something about that. You know, as I've worked in the U.S., I've worked in Rwanda, Senegal. I'm currently working in Winterville, South Africa. I've worked in India. I've worked in a lot of places, right? But always working on the same thing, right? And one of the things that just sort of, when you start thinking about how humans live and how we can have beneficial lives, there was this sociologist. He came up with something called Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? And at the very bottom of that thing was shelter, then the next thing was food, then the next thing was security, then the next thing was being loved and cared for, right? And then the next thing was being self-actualized. And self-actualized is a place, is when you can reach, you're living in a community, and you're living within a community, but clearly you need to have shelter. Clearly you need to have food. Clearly you need to be secure. Surely you need to feel like you're important, right? And so what we try to do is take the dollars we are investing in housing to make all those other things happen, right? So when we build buildings, we're really trying to make things all the way up in Maslow's hierarchy of values happen. So if you put a brick in Mount Vernon, it costs the same thing as the brick on 57th Street. You know, a brick is a brick is a brick, right? At the end of the day, you can sell a brick, you know, on 57th Street in Manhattan for a lot more than you can sell it for in Mount Vernon, right? And so part of the thing that happens with this, right, this work becomes a public-private partnership, right? And so when I say public-private partnership, the state of New York is going to put in $25 billion in subsidy in this, right? They get this subsidy from people who pay taxes in the state of New York. They take it out of the funds they get from taxes, they get it from bonds, et cetera. But basically, they're taking the public money, right, and they're betting that in Mount Vernon, this public money is going to make a difference in people's lives. So the state doesn't want to bet that they're just going to have a house. They want to bet that people's lives are going to be better, right? And so our practice is to deliver on that by trying to deliver more than a rooftop over someone. And so when you do that, you can make change happen over a long term, but you can make it happen over a short term. Because if you look at kids there are some kids in this district, because when you look at it, it has a high, in this census tract, it has the highest dropout rate in Mount Vernon. It has the highest incarceration rate, right? But there is some kid that is going to come to this program that is 9 or 10 or 12 years old, and that kid's life is going to be changed because he's going to get a mentor, he's going to get a tutor, he's going to get help on the things he needs, he's going to get role models. One of the things that we're doing in this building is that everyone that rents a home in this building will have to give back 2 hours to 4 hours per month in volunteer time with people in this community. And so the idea is that you aren't just building a building, you're integrating people that are living in this building into the community, and the community into the building. And so through doing that, we will have people that are visual artists and poets and robotics designers and programmers and comedians and chefs. They will all be here. They will be working as mentors, and they will be tutoring, and they will be doing things to transfer their passion to young people that live in Mount Vernon. And so that's the portion about living in a community where you're cared for. You know, there are a lot of kids in our communities all over, not just Mount Vernon, that don't get the care that they should get, that they deserve, either at home or at school, right? This is that third phase, right? This is that third phase where we will have a caring community that part of the contract for them living here is they connect with the community. And so that's starting to address that sort of middle piece, living in a community where you're cared for. And those sort of things make huge differences in people's lives. So that's our MO, that's what we believe, and it will be something you will see in all the projects we've done. The ideas have evolved over time because you do something and you don't quite get the results you want, and then you say, aha, I know what I can do better next time. Well, we're always living and learning. We're very seldom looking back, right? We're always looking at how can we do better tomorrow than we did yesterday, because that's how I think not only we as a business need to be, but that's how we as a community need to be. What can we do to make our tomorrows a little bit brighter than yesterday's, right? What has challenged me here in Mount Vernon is how many people are talking about the yesterdays and can't really focus on what we need to do today to make our tomorrows brighter. So we're committed to working with these people, whether they're city council people or stakeholders in the community, to see that, hey, there's a better way.
Right. And that's the way it needs to be done, and that's the way our communities need to run. we are, I guess, we're supposed to have another guest and not here, so I guess we just keep going.
One of our listeners was commenting on that. He said we need to build and invest and then reinvest. He's like, that's most communities that are successful start exactly like that.
Yeah, definitely.
And remember, we need to do this in a sensible way, right?
Right.
We need to do it in a sensible way so that, so that we make sure we touch all the points that Carlton mentioned. It's not just to put up a building and make sure that we have a good economy, but to make sure that we're also taking care of our young people.
Absolutely.
That's amazing.
One thing I wanna make sure I want to touch on too. I know, I think Marvin, you brought it up, but for a lot of people that because this project is becoming known under the Richard Thomas administration. But I want to make sure people understand that this project was being worked on far before Richard Thomas was in office, and it really was born under the Mayor Davis administration and the old city council.
Yeah, but further than that, Damon, this project is not a political project.
Absolutely.
Well,
This is a people project.
Right.
Okay? Because at the end of the day, after it's built, it's going to be for the people of Mount Vernon.
Absolutely.
All the people of Mount Vernon, right? And so while we have requirements to go to the city to get our approvals and so forth and so on, it's ultimately a people project.
Right. And both mayors thought it was a good project.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I'm going to tell you, and everyone, it's always easy to throw darts at people because everybody's flawed, right? But I'll say this, right? This project wouldn't be happening if the former mayor, Mayor Davis, had not gotten to this property and bought it from the Y. This wouldn't be happening, right? This project wouldn't be happening also if the current mayor hadn't said, oh, I like this idea. Though it came from the former mayor, he ultimately said, oh, I like this idea. It's good for Mount Vernon. When I look at the city council, we've got at least 3 city council people who have said, oh, I don't really care which mayor it came from. This is good for Mount Vernon, right? And so when Diana says this is Mount Vernon, this is the people's project, right? That's really what it is, right? And at the end of the day, it is the people pulling together and saying, this is what we want to do. One of the things I had told the city council members, right, I told them that, quite frankly, I've been a little startled, working in Mount Vernon. And so in our sort of PowerPoint presentation, right, I showed them pictures of the work we did in Rwanda. I got to Rwanda about 7 years after the genocide, and the war actually is still going on in Rwanda, along the border of Rwanda and Eastern Congo, right? But when I got there, the country was still devastated, and the first thing they did when we landed, we didn't even get to take our stuff to the hotel, right? But the people that we were meeting with from the government met us at the airport, and they took us immediately to a memorial in Rwanda, right? And the memorial in Rwanda was this long building, probably 50 yards long, that was 1 story tall with a double hip roof, but you had to go down like some steps into the ground. And the sides of the building were open above ground. And as you went down the steps, all you saw was baskets of bones, human bones, skulls, legs, arms, everything. And there was this woman that was the guide there. And I was real nervous about going down because this is an intensely emotional experience. And so when I get real nervous like that, I started talking. So I was asking this woman, I'm like, well, how do you do this every day? And she said, I do this every day because my entire family is in these bones. My husband, my 4 children, all my sisters, all my brothers, both my parents, my father-in-law, my mother-in-law, all my cousins, all their bones are interred here, right? And he says, this is the only way I can be with them. And had I known then what I know now, the sort of arguments we had based around ethnicity, we never would have had, right? And so I look at Mount Vernon and I hear the arguments about leadership and this and that, and I'm in charge, and I want to be this, and I want to be that, and I disagree with you. And it sounds like Rwanda sounded before the genocide.
Wow.
People just refusing to look at each other in the eye and say, what's good for this city, right? And so what we want to do is change that dialogue, right? Say, this is the project we can all be for because it's good for the city, and it's to move us forward beyond the sort of paralysis that we have, that we're fighting each other over everything, but never moving the city forward for our people in the city. And so that's where I want to see this project to be a catalyst for starting that dialogue. And maybe I'm overly ambitious, but, again, I said I come at this from a human development, human rights standpoint, not just from a building standpoint.
Let me ask you, do you guys have a... This is not on, right? It's on?
Yes, I can hear you.
Do you guys have a deadline? I mean, if it doesn't get passed within a certain amount of time, are you guys going to pull out?
Yeah, we will pull out, right? And how close we are to that, we are extremely close. We've been here 2 years. We have spent north of $300,000 on architecture and engineering and planning and borings and environmental studies and all sorts of things. And we need to get this project approved, first for the land acquisition, and then we have to do the zoning thing, which will be another 9 to 12 months. And then 2 years to build, right? And so at a certain point, we're going to have to just cut our losses. And we're very close to that point.
Wow.
If we can't get an affirmative vote on the acquisition of this in the next few weeks, then, from my standpoint, I'm really going to have to move on because we are working right now in Atlanta where, they're happy to have us work. We're working in West Atlanta, the West End, that has been disinvested, but they built this huge new arena right on the edge of the West End.
Right.
And we were working there to do some of the same things we were trying to do in Mount Vernon. We're working in Birmingham. I've worked there for the last 3 years getting the National Civil Rights Monument approved, and now we're starting to work on redeveloping in that community that has been devastated, much like Mount Vernon has to do this investment. And in these other communities, everyone is saying, we like it, we want to make it move forward. And those projects, though we started on them much later than we started in Mount Vernon, are moving forward. I just don't want to run away from Mount Vernon and stop. But at some point, we do have to draw the line. What day, a week, an hour that is, we don't know, but that time will come.
And so when this project leaves, what will probably likely happen is if we get someone who will throw up a building, and they won't care what happens to the community. They'll get their profits and they will leave.
Yep,
right now,
exactly.
Right now, we spend so much time focusing on the things beyond just the architecture and all those things to build a building, but preserving those programs. We made promises to people a year ago that telling them that, don't give that away to somebody else. We still want it, you know?
Right.
Preserving those programs and, making sure that all the people who promise us stuff, they still know we're real and it's going to happen. That consumes a lot of our resources, We're putting in 25% of our funds go to make sure we have community resource. Not the developer's going to do that. They're going to come in, they're going to get out their Excel spreadsheet, and they make decisions based on the Excel spreadsheet, not on what's going on with the impact it has on the community. It is really kind of frustrating to see this happen. It's very frustrating to see this happen.
Actually, that's one of the things that I brought up in the article. Is at a time, most of the complaints about development in Mount Vernon is that people are coming in, they don't care about us, they're not taking care of us, they're not doing nothing for the city, they just doing what they can do. And what appears to be a project that looks like it can benefit the community and from people that look like us,
That's right.
is the project that's having that's having difficulty.
And
I mean,
That's unbelievable.
and on the south side.
right, and whether you're for or against the 42 Broad project, the people of Fleetwood in that area have been fighting that project for 3 years, and they still got approved, no matter what kind of protests or nothing. So, you know what I'm saying? Not even just the south side. On that side, too, some people think it's good, some people bad, but there's a group of people in Fleetwood that have been fighting that building for 3 years.
But it's moving forward.
And it's been approved, and it's been going on. And these people are still protesting, and it's still going on.
Exactly.
So,
Look what happened in Mount Vernon Western Station.
that
went
Lego
through-
building.
that building.
And that's a horrible building.
That's the first thing you see when you come from the Yonkers
That's
or
the
come off
most
the highway.
ugliest building I've seen.
And you ask the question, well, what did they give back?
Absolutely.
Talking about the Lego building?
Yes.
Yes.
And what they give back, they gave back nothing. It's inconceivable to me that people are saying no to the exact thing that you would think
That
they
they're complaining
want.
about, that
Exactly,
yeah.
exactly. The thing that they'd say they want. It's inconceivable. While I was driving here, I saw that there's a school board election, on May 8th. Well, on
May
the-
15th. The library
Library.
election is May 8th.
Whichever it was, there was on the one of the campaign posters I saw, it says no more tax raises, right? And I'm like, wait a second. In Mount Vernon, what do you mean no more tax raises? The fact of the matter is that the only way for that to happen is to cut service.
Right.
Because we don't have any more tax revenue coming in. We're going to cut service. So when the taxpayers say, ouch, I'm not doing it anymore, then we're going to end up cutting services.
Right.
I mean, what happens to the city at that point? Does the state come in and take over because we can't function?
And we're already losing services from under the Astorino administration. When they did the zero budget every year, they cut services in Mount Vernon. They cut the probation building, the probation office. They cut this, they cut that. The services, I'm sure not just Mount Vernon, but Mount Vernon was hit heavily in the cuts.
Absolutely. I think that the people of Mount Vernon deserves better, and I think we have something that can offer them many of the things they want. This is not the end all and be all of development, right? We hope what this will happen will spur other developers to come in and will spur the Mount Vernon residents and its elected officials to say, hey, if you're coming in and you want to build in our city and you want to make a profit from our city, guess what? You have to give back to us. And these are the things we would like you to consider. Right?
Yeah, I mean, and that's what we want to do, raise the bar for everyone to come in after us, right? That's what makes the city better.
Exactly.
Right, because the building on Gramerton, they put a dollar store in there, and they said that was the only business they could get to come in. On Gramerton. We're not even talking about the south. On Gramerton. You know what I'm saying? Like, you would think you can get a better business.
Well, now the report has showed that dollar stores sell contaminated food. I mean,
Right.
there's a big report. There's a big study that has and we meant to put it in this month's Black Westchester, but we just didn't have time to put the article together because I needed to get the report. But it's very interesting that Mount Vernon has 6 or 7 dollar stores.
Wow.
How many?
About 6 or 7 in a 4x4 square
Wow.
mile radius.
Yeah, Family Dollar is the
Yeah.
number one chain
And-
store in Mount Vernon, beating CVS now.
Right, but the most important thing about it is that these stores, the food and items that they sell are contaminated. The study went and they did a study on it, and they went throughout the nation, and the contaminants in these stores in the products that they sell, and it's only in poor and black communities. So, I think that's something that needs to be looked at. But we continue to see dollar stores, and you know what? And it's crazy because it's not like the community of Mount Vernon. We don't spend the money. because you could go to TJIFs in Yonkers, you could go to Applebee's in New Rochelle, you could go to BBQs in the Bronx, and you see people in Mount Vernon everywhere else eating at these chain restaurants.
Yeah, that's true.
Right? Because
City Island.
Right, City Island. I mean, Negroes in City Island, like, you know, I mean, it's not saying that they can't afford it, you know, because they can afford it because they're there, but for whatever reason, it's not produced in the city, and that does a disservice to the city because it keeps a lot of it keeps a lot of people from coming into the city, and the youth doesn't have jobs, you know. So I mean, sometimes somehow the culture has to change.
And not only that,
You know.
though, you can't, when you talk about revenue, you can't spend your entertainment dollars in Mount Vernon. So those who have it to spend have to go to Dave and Buster and Pelham Manor.
Sure.
Have to go to New Rock City or Ridge
Pelham-
Hill or Bay Plaza to see a movie. You know
What
what I'm
did
saying?
Pelham do to us 10, 15 years ago? Wouldn't allow us to go to those things. They denied the opportunity for the development
Right.
of the Targets and all those stores.
Right.
And we're spending our dollars there now.
Right. And so we're going to New Rochelle, Yonkers, we're going to White Plains, we're going to the Bronx. The Bronx is even getting all our money now, like Bay Plaza and all that. So
You should bring those two council members in here and ask them the questions.
we're planning on
Okay.
talking to them.
No, we plan on reaching out to them.
We're going to reach out to them. Whether
Well,
they
we
come on the
definitely
show
gonna
or
reach
not.
out to 'em.
Whether they come on the show or not is another
Right,
thing.
and
Because we met with one of them on several occasions. One of them didn't want to meet with us, period. You know.
That's probably the same one that won't come on our show, too.
But you know, one of the things they raised, we aren't paying enough money for the thing. Well, we had the property appraised, right? And the property only appraised at $500,000, and we use an appraiser that does appraisals for the state and for banks. And so they said they wanted 1.2 million because that's what they said. We said, okay, we'll do that. We want to get the project going. Then they said, well, that's not really enough. Like, I'm like, well, what do you want?
so the property appraised for $500,000.
That is the Y and the two-part.
Well, it was appraised for $500,000, and one of the things, the property is owned only for commercial, right? Downtown, so you can only put commercial or retail there. We had a meeting with the appraiser and one of the city council members just last week, and the appraiser explained to the city councilwoman that the commercial space in Mount Vernon has practically zero value. And what they pointed to was the Chase building, where the only floor occupied is Chase Bank, right? And they have 3 more years left on their lease, and they've been trying to sell the building. And they don't plan on, well, they may renew the lease for 5 years, extend it for 5 years. But the building had practically zero value because the rents worked out to $3 or $4 a square foot if you take what they paid for Chase and spread it over the whole building. So if you look at a building something that can only be commercial, as the zoning is, right, and say the rents are $3 or $4 a square foot, it won't pay the debt service in order to get it financed to build it, right? And so the highest and best use was the vacant land and the parking, right? And the other thing that diminished the cost is the YMCA building has to be torn down. It has black mold, it has asbestos, it has lead paint, it has PCBs, there's a suspicion that there is perk there. And so all these things are, at worst, carcinogenic, right? And you know, at best, they do damage to the immune system, right? So, or brain damage, right? And so, in order to tear the building down, you have to tear it down and dispose of it as hazardous waste, right? And so that reduces the cost value of the land. And so when you look at the land, that's what the appraisal came for. What we offered to do is like, hey, look, if you, the city council, want to get another appraisal, go get a qualified appraisal that does this work for the state, and then for Chase, and then for Bank of America and TD Bank that does multifamily finance like this, and have them do an appraisal and we'll purchase it for the average of the two appraisals if you think our appraisal is too low. The truth of the matter is we've offered more than an appraisal, and so they were kind of mum on that. So I don't really know what the city wants.
One of the things
is baffling. So I would be interested to listen to the show when you have the city council members on, and they say exactly what they want.
Yeah, it's been really frustrating, I guess is the best word, to negotiate. You know, I come from a union background, so what you do, you come in with your price, and the other person say their price. No, I'm not going to accept it, and we go back and forth. That's not really what has happened. You know, we hear, we make an offer, and we sort of hear through osmosis that that's not good enough. And we raise our offer and we hear through osmosis, oh, well, that's not good enough. And then we go to the city council for a vote and we think we have the right price, right? Because we're hearing this through the osmosis, through whatever waves or whatever. And we go to a vote and it's turned down, and then we hear after the vote by rumor that, oh, that's not the right price, right? So we're sort of like, okay, fine. Someone please tell us, as a unified body, please tell us, what do you want from us, right? Let us know what you want.
Well, okay. So, you guys met with a city council person with the appraisal person.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right. Now, we're not saying any names, but it was outside the two people that voted yes, because I know the vote.
Yeah,
right?
One of the two people who did not vote for the project.
Okay, good. That's good. So now they met with this the appraisal person. The appraisal person has the proper credentials and the background to give the proper appraisal of the property. And I'm correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So now, see, because what I'm doing, I'm just trying to eliminate excuses, because it was also floating around social media. Social media is a wonderful thing. You know, it could be used for good, it could be used for bad, and it could also be used to encourage a lot of ignorance. So it was floating around social media that, you know, the question was about the credibility of these appraisers who gave these type of Marvin smile. The credibility of these appraisers that gave these numbers on what the property value was worth, and even the actual report on the black mold and asbestos. So, you know, and to hear that you actually met and they are still to the point of denying a project that the city, denying a project moving forward that will give services to the city at their own cost, and the city sitting holding on property that they don't have, they're not going to get the funds to even fix. It's ludicrous. It's not even good. It's not good governance, right? And it's not good. It's not good politics, and it makes black people look like we're incompetent, because everything in Mount Vernon, every project, right, that black people are allegedly to be in charge of in this city government is behind the 8 ball. You know, let's look at Memorial Field, right? When Memorial Field started, they're going to redo Memorial Field, all this hoopla, right? And now the field is still not open. We went through 3 mayors, right? Three mayors. And in that time, they built Yankee Stadium, they tore down the old Yankee Stadium, and they built a mall, right? They built the Mets, the Nets, the Mets Stadium,
Citi Field,
right? Citi Field. They built that stadium, and they built a damn bridge. They built the new Tappan Zee Bridge, and we're still waiting on Memorial Field to be built.
And I think the Brooklyn Nets, Brooklyn thing is during that time too.
Yeah,
Yes.
In Brooklyn.
Yeah, that's what I said. I said the Mets. The Nets. This is ridiculous. And then we sit and we have a project that is good for the community, and we still tap dance around it. I think, it's a lot of discussion.
I really want to speak to the credibility of the people we used, our appraiser
Good.
and our
Yes.
and our environmental assessor. And
Yes.
Carlton, please jump in if there's something you have to say. We're accountable to investors. We're accountable, and our investors, primary investors, will be banks and bond agencies. We can't make up things about what the property is worth, because they are going to get their own appraisers and verify what we do. If we make up an appraisal and we submit all this package to a bank or to the state, and they find out that we have to sign that, everything we've given them is stuff we authorize or we know to be true, or it's perjury, right? If we submit false documents to investors,
Right.
we are in big trouble. We just don't get the project off the ground.
The other thing, just to put things in perspective, right? This is an appraisal for one project. It's a $120 million project, right? Well, if you think about the value of the work this particular appraisal firm does every year, it's probably 100-fold that value, right? Because they are one of the primary appraisers for multifamily housing in New York, and upstate and mid-Hudson region, right? And so, would they give us a phony appraisal so they can never do work with the state again? Would they give us a phony appraisal so they can never do work with TD Bank again, or with,
Right.
or with Wells Fargo, or with Chase, or with Citibank? That's kind of preposterous. Would they do that, and they are licensed by the state? Would they jeopardize their license by giving out phony information?
And let's put it in context.
It's just preposterous, right?
Let's put it in context.
And then
Would
the
a
same
white
thing
firm,
with the phase one
would
and
a white
That's where I was
firm
getting ready to go.
take money from some black folks
Right.
to do a bogus appraisal or bogus environmental stuff? Huh?
Like Fat Chance, right?
Fat chance. They're not going to take money from some black folks,
Right.
risk their entire business, their ability to do business anywhere. I mean,
Exactly.
that
Exactly.
is ludicrous, right?
Preposterous, right? And then the same thing with the firm that did the phase one environmental. Well, the phase one environmental, for any project you're going to do in the state of New York, you have to do a phase one environmental. If you're doing a zoning change, if you're putting in a road, if you're doing anything, and that's managed by state DEC, Department of Environmental Control, Quality Control, right? So if you go through DEC and they say, oh yeah, I hear you're putting out phony reports for this little project in Mount Vernon, you'll never do another DEC phase one in this state again. It's just preposterous, right? Everything we're doing is, in terms of these professional reports, are in a regulated community environment, right? And so, and if they want to go get someone else to do it, the city can pay for it, and they'll get the same answer, you know?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and you know what? I'm
And the thing about it is, I've heard people talking about they want to just take their kids and put them back in the Y, right? Well, do they know what PERC does? Do they know what lead does to kids? Do they know what PCB does to kids, you know? Do they know what black mold does to kids, you know? And if you look at Mount Vernon, it already has an elevated asthma rate in black and brown kids, right? Do you know that it is criminal as far as I'm concerned and immoral to take kids into a building like that? I mean, why would you say that's what you want to do?
Wow, that's amazing. You know, but we continue, you know, as black people to embarrass ourselves. Look, AJ, I sent you something in Facebook Messenger. Like this is the proposed beach, right? Yeah, I want you to just show the listeners, you know,
wait.
if you could pull it up from Facebook, the beach.
Yeah, I'm trying to get to that screen. Hold on.
Okay. Well, you know, I mean, why do we continue to embarrass ourselves as black people running a city? And can you get it, bro?
Well, I just listen.
Okay.
I'm personally offended whenever the integrity of black people and myself included is questioned. But I wonder how many people, when white folks bring reports up, that they're not questioning.
Absolutely.
I mean,
absolutely.
We say we want black people to be professionals. We want them to do the right thing. But why is our integrity being questioned? Why is the first thing to think about is, oh, they went and they cooked up something in the basement.
Right.
Pretend. It's not real.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
Why does that happen to black professionals?
You know why? Because when the black people that we deal with are slave-minded. And they say, and they have self-hatred, you know, that master's ice is colder. You understand? And this is what we deal with. And even, you know, Dr. Claude Anderson talks about it in his book Powernomics. And that, you know, we have to have certain code of conduct in our community that we will have to address our leaders that act like that. You know, we have to hold them to a higher standard when they act like that, when the greater black community is trying to be professional. You know, and one thing that we fail to understand in the leadership in Mount Vernon is that what we do is not just affects people in Mount Vernon. Every black person in Westchester, it reflects every professional person in Westchester.
Absolutely.
Whether you're a black person in Scarsdale, Greenburgh, New Rochelle, Yonkers, Peekskill, or Austin, because when you're sitting in that restaurant, right, and something comes on about Mount Vernon and you're black, they look at you. The first thing they do is look at you.
Absolutely.
Because Mount Vernon represents every black person in Westchester.
But you know, it's greater than that too. You know, we as black people, we know we have to work harder. We have to be better just to get a little bit in the main society.
Absolutely,
right?
absolutely.
So I know that white people are going to question my credential. They always do. But when I turn around and my own brothers and sisters do the same thing, I'm like, wow.
Right.
Yeah, you know, I mean, wow, you're doing it too?
Right, because some Negroes think they're the only smart one in the room.
Yeah,
and they don't even have the expertise. That's the thing that really bothers me. They don't have enough expertise, but they can go to a seminar for one day and they think they know it all. I will tell you, I worked at the state. I was at the state housing department within the state of New York. I was there for 4 years, and I ran the unit that does all the 9% tax credit deals, which is low-income buildings like the building at Mount Vernon West, the multicolored building that was funded by Mount Vernon 9% tax credits deals. And I covered all of New York City, all of Long Island, Westchester, and Rockland County. And all those projects, all those developers I know personally. I know what kind of projects they put through. And it's the same projects that you saw in Mount Vernon West, that multicolored building that's a 9% tax credit deals. And that's what we're headed for in Mount Vernon.
But that's what we're in. We ain't headed. We're already there.
We're going to be headed even worse. I'm saying we're there, not there yet. But as Carlton said, that he's talked with some investment bankers. Asked Carlton, I heard you're doing a project in Mount Vernon.
So they'll never spend no money in Mount Vernon.
They don't want to spend money in Mount Vernon because we're getting redlined because we don't do the right thing.
Absolutely, absolutely. But you know, put up that. I just want to show the people. This is the beach. Right? This is the beach that's coming to Mount Vernon.
What is that?
That's the beach. that is the beach that's coming to Mount Vernon.
Mount Vernon waterfront.
That's the Mount Vernon. That's the beach. That's the beach that we're talking about.
Canal Village?
Yes. Are you kidding me? Like really? Am I going to take my children to that? That's a sandbox.
Where is that?
It got to be. I don't know. It's over there by the field. It's over there in the back of Target somewhere. But that's the proposed beach.
Where's the water? There's a requirement for a beach, right?
They are.
That's what I said, where is it?
They're going to remediate the
Only
waterways
thing
over
on the
there.
other side of Target is the highway.
Dude, I'm
You can
still
drive
trying.
behind it. You
I'm
can
still trying
go.
to figure it out. But that's the beach. See, this is why people don't take us serious, bro. You know, these are the things that they wonder why black people are not being taken serious in politics in Westchester, because we pull crap like that, man. We cannot do that. We cannot do it even to the people. I mean, come on, really? And we wonder why they laugh at us. They wonder why they laugh at us. Come on, man. And then we settle for it. Come on, people. Y'all got to do better, man. Y'all got to want better for yourselves. You have to. Before they come and they take this piece of land away from y'all guys.
It's happening. It's 3 to 5 years. It's going to change.
'Cause
Like,
they-
change is coming.
Before they take it away
Right.
and kick y'all Negroes out of Mount Vernon. And it's going to happen. It's going to happen.
3 to 5 years. I'm just saying, either we're going to get it together or we're not going to be here.
so we
but
get
Mount
to-
Vernon is going to thrive, though.
Yeah.
Because
We
they built.
get to choose now.
Right.
We get to choose.
Absolutely.
At some point,
Absolutely.
we won't have a choice.
No,
We'll just
no.
be kicked
And we
out.
haven't learned from Harlem.
No.
You know, we haven't taken that lesson in Harlem, where black people could have reinvested in Harlem and can actually literally controlled Harlem, and now, you see, you see white people running at night. They take it over. It's going.
Right,
Now they trying to
across
change it to
110th
what?
Street.
So high? So they even trying to take Harlem away.
Right.
Call it so high.
It's crazy,
What'd you say, Colin?
It's crazy. I'm gonna tell you. I tell you a story. This is
You can't tell them all?
This
I
is
can't
the
hear.
Brooklyn story. Back in '92, there was something called the Saratoga Square Urban Renewal Area. And that was sort of an area that sort of covered both Brownsville and a portion of Bedford-Stuyvesant. And I live in Bedford-Stuyvesant, probably only 5 or 6 blocks from where this area is, right? And so we got designated to develop housing there. We did, over the course of time, 400 two-family homes over there. But the whole area got like maybe 3,000 new homes, and then retail, et cetera. And so when we were doing the very first group, it was called Saratoga 1 Urban Renewal Thing, right? And it was probably only maybe 50 homes, right, that we were building. And we went and we were working with a nonprofit that was our community sponsor that was doing the market, a gentleman named Joseph Holly. He was inside. He ran that Northeast Brooklyn. And so we were down in the community meeting room of Northeast Brooklyn. And we were making our presentation about these houses, blah, 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 blah. And then this one guy got up and said, well, who's the real builder? I'm like, well, we're the developer and builder, right? He said, I would never buy a house from a black person, right? Right. And so what I appreciated about him, he said what a whole lot of people with slave mentality think, right? He wouldn't do that. Joe Holly, who at that time was probably 60-something, 65, 66, he was an elderly guy. Joe Holly jumped out of his seat, went over and said, look, and Joe Holly is a real religious man. He was a deacon in my church. He said, look, MF, you better get out of this space and you better never come again, right? And so Joe Holly confronted this guy who was like that. Meanwhile, there was this guy sitting in that same meeting. He said, well, I'm going to buy one of those houses, right? And so he signed up, he bought one. He tried to get his brother-in-law to buy one, wouldn't do it. A lot of this first group, bunch of Asians bought houses, people were running these Korean stores, they bought houses there. So one day I'm riding my bike about 2 years ago down the street and passed by there. That same guy who was one of the first buyers, he came out and said, Mr. Brown, this is the best deal I ever did. We sold these houses they were two-family homes, we sold them for $180,000. They had $50,000 in subordinated subsidy on it. the rent from the rental unit more than paid the mortgage, paid the taxes, paid the utility costs, etc. So they live for free. And so he said, this is the best investment I ever did. Because since that time, since I bought this house in '92, I've gotten it refinanced twice, right? And the rent still pays for it. I borrowed $700,000 on this. It put my daughter through college. It gave me money to invest in a retirement plan, right? And we bought a second house down in Florida, and we're still living here, and the rent still pays for that mortgage, right? He says, and now my brother-in-law, about 4 years ago, came to me and said, oh, can I get one now? Well, that whole area has been redeveloped. And the notion is that sometimes there are some of us that aren't willing to take advantage of opportunity in our old community because we really don't trust black people, right? However, there are some of us that see the handwriting on the wall and take advantage of it, right? And then ultimately, that's what we're counting on in Mount Vernon. There are going to be enough people that are going to say, this is a good deal, and we're going to get the votes from the city council. We hope to get people from the community from doing shows like this, and we're going to be doing some public meetings to go to those council people and say, no, this is a good bet. You've got to do this. We've got to bet on ourselves. If we aren't willing to bet on ourselves, we need to get out of the game.
Absolutely. And we're coming to the close of the show, so I wanted to give you all a couple of minutes to any last words. I know y'all have a new Facebook page at Library Square, I believe it is, at Library SQ it is, and people can, I guess, get updated information on there. But I wanted to give you all a chance for last words.
Last words. Contact your city council leaders. Let them know you want this project and you want projects like this in Mount Vernon.
Exactly.
Contact
And
them.
my last word is, Damon, and thank you for giving us the opportunity to tell the story the way it really is and talk to people about the possibility of thriving in a city that has been down too long.
And
So
thank you,
it's
AJ.
all within our own hands. We can control our fate. We just
Yes,
need
sir.
the right people to say the right thing.
Okay.
Thank you. And this is how black people do, and this is what free black media. When black media is owned by black people, this is the conversations that we need to have, and we need to empower our people. So I definitely thank y'all for coming on, and we're going to reach out to the city council, not just those who voted no, but those who voted yes.
Yes, please.
To find out about this project, because I think, it's a project that's good for the city, and also that, they need more projects like this one that's going to give back. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Okay,
And to everybody listening, all the Mount Vernon residents, and I ended the article in Black Westchester like this. Now consider this. Are these worthwhile services that will be provided in the place of the now defunct YMCA building that is closed, and there are reports of black moles? Yes, we've heard that several hundreds of thousands of dollars have been poured into the renovations, but the building is still in need of much repair. Now, the city can keep ownership of this dilapidated building or get $1.2 million for it and allow these developers to build a mixed-use complex with a parking lot, up to 320 units, retail, community spaces, plus these services. You, the resident, should decide. The elected officials work for you, not the other way around. You decide what goes in your neighborhood, and you let them know, not the other way around. And for more information on Library Square, follow them on Facebook at Library SQ. So that's all I'm going to say on the topic. We'd like to thank everybody for tuning in. Again, check us out tomorrow.
Yes.
11 a.m.
11
to
a.m.
12 noon. The new Black Westchester Magazine Power Hour on WVOX, 1460 a.m. And also Wednesday, May 9th is Black Westchester Magazine / Councilman Andre Wallace / Cupcake Cutie Boutique night at the Universal Soul Circus, 7 o'clock. Click on the link. I have the link on Black Westchester. You get a 25% discount on your tickets. Come out and support Black Westchester. and hang out with us. Damon and I will be your ringmasters. What else is coming up? The paper's out. The digital copy is up. The paper, if it's not in your area, we will be hitting it in the next couple of days. And any last words, Damon? Anything I forgot?
No, just make sure those who can tune in tomorrow. I think it's going to be a very interesting show on WVOX. We'll have Deputy County Exec King Jenkins as our guest to kick off the first show on WVOX, and we're going to talk a lot of issues that's going on in the Westchester community. And you could call in. I'm not sure the call-in number yet, but your guys will be able to call in, and it's a new format. We got to get used to commercial breaks and all that other stuff. That's not straight up radio. And we got somebody to let us know who's calling in. So y'all just can't call in and bum rush the show like you used to on this show. We it's going to be we're going to know who's calling in. So, but I mean, it is what it is. It's internet radio. If you could do internet radio, you could do regular radio at any time.
The call-in number, I believe, is 914-636-0110, and you can tune in at, again, 1460 AM or www.wvox.com, and you can also catch it on the TuneIn FM.
TuneIn FM. And we're going to be live on Facebook.
Right.
We're going live on Facebook. So, don't worry. You can definitely catch us on Facebook. And thank you for your support. I mean, we're moving forward. It's a door that's open, and we're going to go through the door. And we're going to open the door wide open, and hopefully with your support, they'll want us on more than once a month. Right. But we'll take what we could get at this point.
And make sure you check out the May issue. Damon has worked hard on a couple of strong, very important cover stories that you need to talk about. The tolerance is for cowards, the inaction of black leadership to speak truth to power in the age of oppressive governance. Another story on the Mobutu syndrome, white privilege over a black community is a threat to the community.
No, the threat to democracy.
And also the political, legal, and criminal decimation of black America's dad.
Yes.
Definitely articles worth checking out. The whole paper's worth checking out, but those are very important. We're going to continue to tackle the hard subjects and, go where nobody else is going to go. And, with that said, you could be doing anything else, but you decided to ride with us, and we greatly appreciate it. This is Black Westchester Magazine Presents, the People Before Politics radio show, every Sunday 6 to 8 on InTheMixRadio.com. Tune in. I don't think we'll be here next week as Mother's Day.
No.
And we'll be back on the 20th, where we're going to have, I know Rashad Balazs coming in, and you have somebody coming in, I forgot. Jonathan Newton is going to call in from the National Association Against Police Brutality.
We're going to talk about the Bill Cosby case and the perversion of the legal process.
Right.
It's not about his innocence or guilt. We're not talking about his innocence or guilt. We're talking about the perversion of the legal process and what they did. And that they won't dare to do that to Weinstein or any other white person that has been alleged or settled out of court for millions of dollars. So we're going to talk about that. Jonathan Newton, he's a law school graduate. He's a community activist down in Washington D.C. and he's a very intelligent brother. And see, I want someone that studied law to talk about it. See, y'all can argue with me. I'm just a little correction officer, but I want somebody that studied law to actually address this to perversion of the law, and to get a conviction to Bill Cosby. So tune in in 2 weeks.
22 million black victims
Peace.
of Americanism are waking up, and they're gaining a new political consciousness, becoming politically mature. And as they develop this political maturity, they're able to see the recent trends in these political elections. Any minority that has a block of votes that stick together is in a strategic position. Either way you go, that's who gets it. You're in a position to determine who go to the White House and who stay in the doghouse. You're the one who has that power. You and I have never seen democracy. All we've seen is hypocrisy.